Hi, I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to FinextraTV at Sibos. Over the last few months, we've been hearing a lot from thought leaders about the impact of COVID-19 on various areas of the industry that they work in, but we're beginning to look forward and focus on the next stage of recovery. On the line to give her view of things is Paula da Silva, Head of Transactions for SEB and a board member for P27 Nordic Payments Platform. So hello, Paula. Thank you for joining our virtual studio today.
Hello, Hannah. I'm very pleased to be here.
So yes, this is a big theme at this year's Sibos, one of which we might not have predicted and one that leaves us with some really big questions to answer, such as how do we see the industry navigating its way out of the pandemic? So yes, let's start there. What does recovery look like for you, Paula?
So, of course, it's affecting us all severely, I would say, and more of our customers are affected than not, obviously. But the recovery in Sweden is pretty different. I think the pandemic such, the impact has been a bit different here than in some other countries, as we never really closed down. So we have had people in the office maybe 25 to 50% basically all the time. And a lot of customers have also been kind of on leave partly and working partly. But of course, the industry is affected, the exports are affected, and also the imports. So we see a downturn on the trade finance side primarily, as things have not been able to travel around the world in the same way as usual. Versus on the management side, where we see that customers have actually dispersed on their credit lines, and therefore we've had a lot of deposits to take care of, just in order for everyone to ensure liquidity as needed. So it has been a torn picture, really. But we are doing, better than you could expect under such circumstances. And when you heard it the first time in February or beginning of March, you would expect much worse outcome. But of course, it will hit, I don't know, 6 or 7% of GDP. That's a lot.
All right, well, we'll come on to trade a little bit more in a bit, but how do you see banks and corporates working collaboratively over the coming months, specifically with regard to managing supply chains?
I think there is a lot of things happening, and to be a trusted advisor is the most important thing for us, also in difficult times, and maybe to share our own developments and insights, but also struggles is really good. And I hope that we can look back to this part of the year by having embraced a lot of digital maybe challenges going forward. We are not there, and us neither our customers, but to have that transition and use this time that is calmer, if you want, to embrace that transition. And as we are talking here now, the new normal is this way of speaking to each other, and also how does that transact into changes in the customer's infrastructure? That's exactly what we need to start working on. And it has been tough because people have been scattered. You've not sat at the office much. It's really tough if you are in IT. Your whiteboard is virtual. So there is a lot of collaboration issues. And in the supply chain, as you mentioned, I mean, if it has been at a standstill, even if you produce things, you can't get it out to your customers or from your suppliers. So what we are trying to do is looking at working capital, issuing guarantees a lot. We've also done a lot of lending very quickly. And SEB has actually collaborated in opening a really large fund called Cinder up here in the Nordics for SMEs primarily, and basically for owners to be able to keep their company during these really difficult times. They get very quick and adequate funding to serve their own purpose quickly, so that liquidity doesn't throw them under the bus, so to speak. So we are really working on fast processes to help the customers faster than normal, I would say, putting all our efforts into that. But then, transition, that's what we need to work on to embrace the new future.
Sure. Well, as you say, here we are adapting, talking virtually. So do you think COVID has accelerated the pace of digital activity in banks then? And
absolutely.
Sure. And what's been the impact on trade in Nordic countries? That's where I want to go next.
No, so we are very dependent on exports, obviously, and we are heavily importers as well when it comes to food and so forth. So of course it has impacted in that way. I mean, people have not bought things, capital goods, just to start with. At the beginning of the year, everyone was at a standstill, waiting for what was about to happen. Factories have been closed, and as they open up, and the order books, they are not fully there, but they are starting to pick up a little bit. Then we see that maybe the world is not as black as we painted it just half a year ago. But it is a severe impact, obviously, and that will affect banks. We've seen banks being affected of credit losses and so forth as well. So it's even more important to work with your core and what you do best, and those clients that we've had relationships with for 100 years. So that's what we continue to do. And as I said, well, on the SME space, we are trying to collaborate with other parties in the market to make this fun, for instance, and also distribute government help and other incentives that have been out there, so that it's panned out into the customer space.
Sure. And I think it's fair to say a lot of projects that started back in 2019 became a bit more complicated. Maybe some were put on hold. And last year, we hosted an industry event on P27 that you attended and we spoke on. How would you summarize the challenges of maintaining momentum with a project like this and navigating regulatory hurdles, taking into account the current climate?
Well, we have a common issue up here in the Nordics. We are, I would say, pretty successful and a low-cost country when it comes to payments, but still we have a lot to do on efficiency, and that caters for us wanting to continue that project, and we are full steam ahead. And then, of course, we have a whole four nations to adapt to new products, new processes. So it's a big undertake, but we are still in good spirits. We are heading on with our clearing license for the Nordics, and we are discussing with regulators. All the banks are still committed, all capital paid in, and so forth. So we are really trying to put this in place as we said originally. Because also the alternative is really, really bad. What do we do instead? Cater for all the different clearing systems that we have today, 9 or so. That's not a good option either. So, we have a good and common goal here, which I'm really, really happy about. And the collaboration is, although never a straight line, really fantastic, I must say.
Sure. Well, a realistic but also positive view there, Paula. But we'll leave it there for now. It's lovely to speak with you again. I hope you enjoy the rest of Sibos, but thank you so much for calling in. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Have a good one and enjoy your Sibos.